Ladies and gentlemen, won't you join me by saying happy birthday to Ramon? And you know, Ramon, I got you the best president in the world. And that is the most interesting election I think we've ever had.
Well, hopefully you meant president, because you said president. But we could have an interesting president in time to come based on these election results. Because, Byron, once you look at these election results, very few coalition agreements make sense other than the one that we said makes the most sense almost a year ago. And that one, of course, is a government of national unity between the ANC, the DA, and the IFP.
Yes, very much so. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may actually look at the coalition agreements and say, what are the potential possibilities? Well, according to the numbers, the possibility number one would be ANC MK. But Cyril has to go. According to the MK party, if Cyril goes, what they intend to do is potentially basically get a puppet ANC leader. The puppet ANC leader, pardon Zuma. Zuma, now being pardoned, can serve on the executive, which means he can then take over as president. But in order for that to happen, Cyril has to go. And in fact, the entire Cyril faction has to go. The problem with that is obviously it would, one, take over the ANC, and two, remove the ANC's commitment to constitutionalism. Because if you look at Zuma's ideas, he wants to ban or get rid of the constitution and have parliamentary supremacy. That's option one. Option two was always the dreaded fear ANC and EFF option. EFF and the ANC don't have enough between them. So what you could have is a potential scenario whereby you basically have a Johannesburg, PA, ANC, EFF. And in return for this, Julia says Floyd must be made finance minister so that he can, set the agenda on how he's going to spend all of our taxes. The PA wants Home Affairs and Police. The EFF says they want Speaker of Parliament. And Cyril must stay on to be president, which is a bit of a weird one because in typical fashion, Julia said, I don't want to work with Cyril, and now he does. Who knows? Third option would be the DA and the ANC on their own. The problem is that there's ideologies that don't match. And because those ideologies don't match, looks like it's not going to get the approval of COSATU and the SACP. So what you have to do then is you have to include somebody else who kind of like acts as the middle point between the ANC and the DA and basically acts as the mitigator. And that is the IFP, which is the Government of National Unity, Ramon, that you're talking about, which makes the most sense. So the answer that you should have, ladies and gentlemen, is which one are we getting? The answer is we don't know because they are contingent on a number of things. Number one, Cyril being there. If Cyril leaves, it's not going to happen. Number two is the actual buy-in of the alliance partners to the ANC-DA alliance. But not just the alliance partners, but also the approval of the national executive of the DA. Because according to the DA, this may spell disaster for their party. But if you're a citizen of the country, and all the polls have shown, you're favoring the ANC-DA coalition because it's the most logical.
It is the most logical. And, this place is retail Dunnistone. We keep saying, like, the most retarded thing generally becomes true, but this could be the exception, right? This could become the exception. The IFP in this scenario is very important because the IFP will quell Zulu nationalism in KwaZulu-Natal. MK dominates KwaZulu-Natal. I think MK and IFP should rule KwaZulu-Natal together, and this coalition agreement excludes KZN for that particular reason. MK needs to lead somewhere because they are the dominant voice for Zulu nationalism, which is, of course, KZN. But also, IFP as deputy president means you got a black leader in charge as deputy president. This will be enough for the SACP and enough for COSATU because they're all racist, there's all hell. What does this mean for the DA? You could have a second deputy president, such as John Steenhuisen, and the DA has a real shot at real power. For the first time in their history, they could actually have their hands on the levers of state power. What do we know about the DA? They organize quite well, they're fairly efficient administratively, and once they have power, I don't think there'll be a turnaround in ANC fortunes. I think the ANC will further crumble. And number two, if the DA is smart, dedicated, and holds on for dear life, they can actually be in power for the next 20, 30 years quite easily. as a majority coalition partner of whichever comes after the ANC.
Yes. Now, Ramon, the biggest difficulty that we have here is obviously everybody saying this will be the death of the ANC or the DA or the wada. I think everybody agrees. We're at the point now, and this is something that Cyril said on Sunday when he addressed the country. We're at the point now where ideology and parties, we don't really care about them. If you look at the amount of people that actually checked out of the elections and were participating, it was actually at a record low because people don't trust democracy in South Africa anymore. So what we now need is a government that actually cares about the citizens and puts the country first. This may be the start of that. And if that means that the ANC, the DA, the IFP, if they all have to work in unions, so be it. As long as we have electricity, things improve in the country, and we have a true new dawn, I think that's all that really matters to the citizenry. Would you not agree?
I mean, what the citizens want is just no more retardation. I mean, it's not difficult. They don't want NHI. They don't want a revolution. They don't want to peg down the wealthy. They don't want to take Israel to court. They want none of that stuff. They just want electricity, the roads to work, and not be killed by foreign immigrants and having no copper stolen either. It's really not that difficult to understand. Speaking of which, the NHI, just quickly, the NHI took away 5% of the ANC's vote. 5%. There could have been a 45%, but the NHI was the greatest gift to the opposition and to people who weren't voting for the ANC, which just goes to show, the ANC guys, no one wants to be a revolution anymore. It's not 1982. It's 2024. Let's deal with real problems and fix them. Simple. And I think most people in this country accept that premise, and most people in this country will accept the government of national unity.
Apart from communists. Because let's face it, communists always want to commie harder, and they very rarely care about the citizens of the state. But for once, Ramon, we really hope that good governance and a little bit of rationality actually hold supreme. For once.
So just 2 points before we go. Number one, this is not the utopian vision. I don't expect South Africa to become better or a world-class African country within the next 5 to 10 years. This is just the best option at the moment. Number two, why this option is more likelier than other options is because all of the demagogues in the ANC are gone. Naledi Pandor's gone, Pravin Gordhan is gone, Ibrahim Patel is gone. A lot of commies have left. What remains of the ANC is Cyril grifters, and with grifters you can make a real deal. With the demagogues, you absolutely can't. So, for once, I'm a bit hopeful about South Africa. I think these election results are the best we could have had. And the options are further balkanization or this actually have a real state. Either way, your strategy as a morning shot watcher and citizen is state-proof as much as possible. But deep down, there is a bit of optimism that we could have a brand new political realignment to actually make South Africa great instead of the political parties in it.
Yes, and I know we're going a little bit over our usual time, but there is actually one comment that I would make or draw from the entire election results. And that is, Ramon, you may recall, during the last municipal elections, there were a number of smaller parties that said to the DA, why are you bullying us? You need to give us equal votes and give us equal voices. And do you know what these elections have shown? Yeah, shut up. You're nobody. You're literally nobody. Action SA, all of them, they are literally nobodies. The DA smashed it, even in the Western Cape. The DA is by far the biggest party in the multi-charter party. They are huge in comparison to the next one on the list, which is IFP at 3.9%. So what this really shows is that the DA have a right to bully all the smaller parties because they hold the majority of the votes. And with that being said, hopefully this shows us going forward, we're not going to have your Herman Mashabas of the place going, oh, why aren't you listening to me? You're not being listened to because you're nobody. Sit quiet in the corner and think what's in the best interest of the citizenry. Your party no longer matters.